You're listening to the Sales School podcast. This is a forum where sales professionals share their knowledge and learn from each other. But most importantly, the Sales School podcast is an initiative to elevate the profession of sales as one of the most fulfilling and impactful career paths. I'm your host, and my name is Bhaskar Medi. And today it is my pleasure to welcome our very first guest. Pratyush, welcome to the Sales School podcast.
Thank you, Bhaskar.
So a little bit about Pratyush. Pratyush is an amazing individual. Professionally, he's the Engagement Director, Strategic Projects at Salesforce. And while taking care of strategic customer-facing projects at Salesforce, he has also found the time to complete close to about 20 full marathons and teaches and practices advanced yoga. Pratyush graduated from the National Institute of Technology, Bhopal, and has a degree in engineering and also pursuing an advanced program in strategy and organizational leadership from the Indian Institute of Management in Lucknow. Career spanning 2 decades, we look forward to learning a lot about sales strategy from Pratyush today. The topic for our discussion today, how to use data, insights, and questions in the selling process. So with that, let's dive right in. And Pratyush, my question to you would be, first off, can you explain to our audience why data, insights, and questions are a winning combination in the selling process?
Thanks, Bhaskar, for an incredible introduction. And this is an amazing initiative. And like you said, this is certainly going to uplift the profession and also bring in a lot of interest in the selling individual. So thanks for starting an amazing initiative. I'll start with certain distinctions. And these distinctions will lead to certain insights. So first is a product conversation versus business conversation. The second is compelling conversation, which is the right conversation with the right people at the right time. And the third is getting them solution versus leading them to a solution. So these are the three distinctions I wanted to start with. So I'll possibly start with an example. I've been customer while I was working with General Electric to many SIs and also to a product organization. I've been in a system integrator where I led some of the large digital transformation, and I've been also part of the product conversation. What I've often seen is a lot of the sales professionals come with the commoditized conversation versus the contextual conversation. And what it typically means is there is a set of PPTs that talks about the product features, that talks about the executive summary, that talks about the reference architecture or the reference solution, set of assumptions and customer obligations. So this is what I've mostly seen sales professional coming to when I was a customer to them. And what I realized, particularly in leading some of the large digital pre-sales engagement, is these won't help. I was just thinking, hey, we're simply parroting or we're simply commoditizing our conversation. We aren't being contextual to the customer. We aren't understanding, hey, what's the problem that businesses or customer is trying to solve? And what is the supporting data, that tells there is actually a problem? So that's where this idea of data came in, which is how do I quantify the data and tell them that there is a problem? Second thing is using that data sets, create a certain set of insights. Say it's like this: if I tell you there is a problem in your business, it's like telling, hey, you're not running your business efficiently, versus giving them data and let them be with the insights that something that I am doing isn't efficient, it can get better. So that's where the insights comes into. The third element was asking some of the provocative questions that helps them get associated with the problems. This is where I say being curious. So if I'm being curious to the problem and I'm delivering that curiosity by asking the powerful questions, then certainly that's going to take them to a thinking. I'll also give an example if that's okay with you.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
So for example, when I said, hey, I want to put this into a structure. So I was talking to a senior executive who is a CIO for one of the organization who I was presenting to. First of all, I wanted to understand how does the application portfolio look like? What I realized by certain conversation through my research and insights, that he had around 20 different applications. I would typically understand, hey, these are the 20 different applications. This would be potentially the license cost. This would potentially be application maintenance and upgrade cost. And this would potentially be the people structure that would support that application. So I had that data. So this was more of a data. Now coming back to insight, hey, if I'm selling an enterprise application, which is going to take care of a digital transformation, this is going to lead to a simplification of his application portfolio, which is going to bring down possibly from 20 to 3. But I did not tell, hey, it's going to bring down from 20 to 3, but essentially helping them go ahead with the insights. And then I also structured some of the discovery question. The intention of that is why he need to act now versus later, which is creating a sense of urgency.
Sure, sure. That's very helpful, Pratyush. That's very helpful. So if you think of the framework that you talked about, which is data, insights, and questions, and if you think about a typical sales cycle, where do you think this data, insight, and question is most valuable?
I would structure the buyer journey into 3 phases, which is why change from the current state. Yeah. Second is why it's important to change now. And the third thing, which is about me, which is about the seller.
Sure.
So what I think is the entire framework begin to fall in place from the beginning, which is why change from the current state. So which means that there is a corporate decision, possibly some of these change initiatives comes either from the corporate or it comes from the business function, or it comes as a project, which is your own initiatives. And you've got this sponsorship from your business head as well as from the corporate. Yeah. So, you've got certain information and you're trying to figure it out how to execute it. And when I start with why change from the current state, I'm essentially trying to strengthen why it's important to move to a future state. So this entire idea about data, which is I have a supporting data that's going to help executive make a decision. I will get with the insights, which is going to help him strengthen his business case. And third is I'm going to, ask certain set of questions, which is essentially going to help him make a decision why not and why now. This entire DIQ framework is not about seller. It's about the buyer. It's about him. It's about his problem. It's
Sure.
about data that supports his problem.
Let's dive into the data bit of your framework. So what kind of data do you consider valuable and where should one go and find this data?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And frankly speaking, I'm still work in progress. I'm trying to structure what kind of data can be the most impactful in the decision making for the buyer. So, I would start with who I'm talking to and in what industry. I'll give you an example. If I'm talking to an executive from a manufacturing industry, hey, what are some of the financial metric, which is important at the corporate level, which is important at the business level, and which is also important at a project level? That's number one. Number two is who am I talking to? So if I'm talking to an IT executive, Then there is a data set of metrics that's important to him: license cost, the total ROI, the customer lifetime value, application maintenance cost. So those are some of the metric which is important to an IT executive. If I'm talking to a CFO, it's going to be a different set of metrics. Now, how do we get this data set? See, frankly speaking, I don't have a standard answer, but I can give you an indicator, which I am using, and I mentored some of the pre-sales to also use similar set of data. See, some of it comes through experience, some of it comes through conversation, and some of it comes through research. I'll give you an example. I was a customer when I was working with GE, and I knew what my business executive was looking for when he was trying to drive a digital transformation, what my IT CIO was looking for when he was trying to firm up on and set up a priority for the list of digital initiative, so which is an experience part of it. The third element is an interesting thing. Let's say if I'm pitching to a financial industry executive, right? I would essentially go ahead and research LinkedIn in terms of, hey, who are the similar customer category, and who are the executives leading those customers, and then send them certain set of questions and requests for a short conversation. And to be honest, the success rate is 10 or 15%, not more, which means if I reach out to 10 executive, only one or at times two responds to them. To me, it comes as an advantage because I've been lucky to work in some of the great organizations. I've been lucky to study in an institution which has produced incredible leaders and which are, playing a role of an executive in some of those organizations. So I have those connect,
Sure.
and oftentimes they help me.
Sure.
And the last element is through research, which is, some of the blogs that I looked into it. So for example, interestingly, I was trying to sell to a government, digital transformation. I was able to find a very interesting case study which essentially talked about the entire transformation journey. So those are some of the ways that helps me get to the data.
There is an investment of your time and energies to do the right kind of homework.
Correct. And this becomes an important if you want to move from a commoditized to a very contextual. Hey, this may require a lot of time, right? But then if I'm following a commoditized approach, maybe I'm talking to 10 customer and I win one. But if shift to contextual, I'm talking to 5 customers and I may win a couple of them. So, but if you balance if you look into the time required, I think it's similar.
Right. You're optimizing for impact by putting in the hard work, upfront. So Pratyush, I think in your framework, you have questions, and questions undoubtedly are most valuable in customer discovery. So how do you go about identifying these right questions? Do you have a framework that you might want to share with our audience?
Bhaskar, first thing, this is not my framework. I learned it, and it's available for anyone to learn from. So what I'm talking essentially, it's summarizing my own experience through the learning that I've gathered over the last 2 decades. The first thing that I would say is I would essentially categorize my questions into 3 things. One is a quantification of the business problem, which is asking a set of questions that's going to help, quantify the business problem and its impact. Second thing is the quantification of an ROI. The third was anticipating how the new metric look like.
Sure.
So these are the 3 things that I structure my questions. I'll give an example. If I'm solving a sales problem, I'll be thinking around sales leakage. Is it an attention problem, customer attention problem? Is it a cross-selling problem? Is it a visibility problem, which is a lead visibility problem, or the customer 360-degree visibility problem? So those are the ways I structure the question so as to, have the more impactful set of questions.
That's very helpful. And obviously frameworks need to be contextualized too. But the good thing about a framework is hopefully it is easy to remember. Hopefully it gives the audience a way to think about it so they don't miss out a specific aspect. So Pratyush, my next question to you is briefly walk us through one of your favorite case studies where you use this DIQ framework of data, insights, and questions for an outcome that was in favor of your organization. Right? Obviously, you can keep the confidential information out, but would love to hear from you how you use this to win a deal.
So I'll give a couple of examples. One was a global retail giant, and again, a very structured conversation in the DIQ format. Second example where it helped was a connected asset management, wherein we were trying to move from a cost center to a profit center, which was a very interesting which was not only an interesting project, but an interesting problem to solve, which is IT is being viewed as a cost center, which is how do we create a platform that not only solve the customer problem, but start generating the revenue. And in the later one, which is the connected asset management, we did a very interesting research along with a partner and a vendor in terms of formulating the entire set of questions. And those questions were around, hey, what's going to be the changes in the way services contract businesses run, which is a new way of running the business. The second was convincing an executive, and he was saying, hey, are you guys going to tell me how do I need to run my business? It was very interesting series of conversation where, we not only had to manage conversation through a business value and leading through a digital transformation, but also, at times manage the egos of a different business stakeholders. So this was a very, very interesting, and it really helped. We did deliver to the business what we promised.
That's helpful. Sometimes people tend to think of these things as theory, but when you really see it in real life, it gives a different perspective. Let's say in the last moment, an executive decides to postpone this purchase or this decision. What do you think you as a seller or a leader from the selling organization can do to overcome last minute obstacles like this?
Yeah, and this is always being a challenging situation, but there is a path to navigating through the challenging situation. So what I do is again use a very interesting framework. I said there are three kinds of value that any project or any initiatives can deliver. One is a hard return, which is all your metric, number, etc. Second is a soft return, which is all around experience. Why someone uses a competition product or a project when both, the number one, number two have a similar operating model. And the third is strategic returns, which is more on the compliance, managing risk, and managing the long-term business values. So those are the three levers that I often use to shift the customer thinking from why then or why later to why now. And I'm not saying that this framework works all. Oftentimes it doesn't, but it also works some of the time. And it has delivered value, and it has delivered information to an executive where they have expedited the business decision-making process.
Another question I had for you, probably this is our last question before we wrap up, is the framework that you walked us through. I think it's very valuable: data, insights, and questions. It's also easy to remember, the DIQ framework, so to speak. Now, two parts of these three-part framework, if I may, probably appeal more to the logical mind. Data and insights would appeal to the logical, whereas questions probably in a way can be a bit emotional as well. So from your experience of having used this framework in the past, can you share with our audience here, like the emotion versus the head, like how do you see these two playing out in a decision-making process? Are customers always emotional? Are they usually always analytical, or is it a mix of the two?
I'll tell you what I've experienced, what I've seen. Oftentimes, the executive slash decision maker comes with a mindset. Just to give you an example, pre-COVID area, most of the customers were saying, hey, I cannot deliver digital transformation virtually. Okay. It was a strong mindset wherein we were of the opinion, at least I was of the opinion, that a digital transformation, if we create a right structure, digital transformation can be delivered from anywhere. And we had certain examples wherein, at least 60 to 70% of the team based out of India was delivering a digital transformation for the customers sitting somewhere else. We had certain data points, but I saw some of the executives were resistant to the idea of delivering digital transformation. COVID came in. We delivered one of the I've spoken to multiple other executives, and they've delivered the entire business transformation virtually.
Wow.
From this 300K to $10 million, what I've heard, when I speak to my friends, colleagues, and mentor. So the reason why I give this example is, if you analyze the behavior, it was more of an emotional, which is, no, I can't do it because I haven't seen it happening. They weren't using logic, but an event came in, they were forced to use it. Okay, so that's the reason I bring in. The second element is, I think most of the executives often starts with emotions, but you apply this framework, which is data, insights, and question. I think you can shift their thinking from, being to being someone who follows a data-driven approach to making a decision.
Sure. I think this is very helpful in the way that the path is always sometimes the head, the heart, the wallet, and probably there is no science of which comes first, right? But I think your message is very, very clear that you can use the DIQ framework, the data, insights, and questions framework to address all of these things, right? And you probably need to practice it enough and also master the art of it. So Pratyush, with that, I'm going to thank you for your valuable time. I know you're incredibly busy, but thank you so much for taking out a little bit of time, because all of this is a community effort. So hopefully aspiring young sales professionals will learn from leaders like you, working at marquee institutions and sharing your knowledge generally. So I deeply appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhaskar. And I loved your idea and the impact that you're trying to create through this spot. So wishing you an incredible success. Thank you so much.